And my encouragement to you, as you build your profile out there in the marketplace, in the workplace, realize that ultimately, if you can build my trust, I will listen to what you have to say. And one of the greatest ways to build your trust with other people is actually opening a wound, being vulnerable, and building your own personal profile.
I would like to welcome to you an amazing human being from Tasmania, Australia. Put your hands together and please welcome Mr. Sam Cawthorn.
Thank you very much. Just give me a thumbs up that you guys can hear me okay. Yes, very, very good. Craig, you certainly got a very good-looking group of people there in Bangalore, and I'm really sorry I can't be there with you. It's just after 12 midnight here in Australia, but I'm really excited about being with you all there today. And today I'm going to share with you a couple of areas just in and around resilience, overcoming, and obviously, what we're seeing globally right now, and really reiterate what Craig was saying is, yes, there is actually a lot of anxiety, particularly when it does come to return to work and the like. So I'm going to be talking about ultimately how we all need to make better decisions. Now, I love this word decision, right? Or the word decide. Get this. The word decision comes from the Latin word decidere, incision. Get this. Scission means to cut, yeah? And the word decide, suicide, pesticide, the word side means to kill. So get this, the dictionary meaning of the word decision means to cut off and kill. And I love that. And I think sometimes leaders, we love keeping our options open. Why? Because we love sitting on the fence. But today, I'm actually going to share with you just a number of stories of where I needed to make decisions as well. Now, as you can see, I do have dark skin. It's actually because my mum, she's actually Bengali. She was born in West Bengal. They're in Kolkata. Whereas I was born here in Australia, but I absolutely love being back there in India. I do come over there around 4 times every year, but unfortunately I'm not there now, but I'm going to be there in Mumbai next week with Craig and my team, which is really, really super cool. However, I'm going to share with you a really awesome story. And this story here is actually about when I won this award. It was the Young Australian of the Year. So it was one of the highest awards. Actually, it was the highest award in the whole of Australia. And on Australia Day, they flew me through to the capital of Australia, there in Canberra. And I'm about to meet the Australian Prime Minister. His name was Kevin Rudd at the time. But I'm thinking to myself, what is a decision that I need to do in order for the Australian Prime Minister to remember me? Because as you know, probably the Australian Prime Minister probably meets hundreds of people every day as if they remember everyone that they meet. So I had one of my prosthetic arms on. Now, as you can see, I have a story, clearly. I think we all have stories, but I've got a story, and I'll share with you a little bit more about what that is, about how I had a major car accident a few years ago. But on this particular day, when I went to meet the Australian Prime Minister, I had one of my prosthetic arms on. And I've got different type of prosthetic arms. I've got a bionic arm. I've got a swimming arm. Actually, I've got the most advanced bionic arm in the world right now. It is the only one in the Southern Hemisphere, and it's worth over 120,000 US. Actually, I've got 8 arms all up. Seriously, how many arms do you have? Anyway, I'm wearing my cosmetic arm on the day I met the Australian Prime Minister, and Glenn McGrath, Adam Gilchrist, a few other really famous Australians were there. So I walked up to the Australian Prime Minister. Again, he didn't notice at all that I had a prosthetic arm because it was a cosmetic arm. It looks exactly the same as my normal hand. So when I went over to the Prime Minister and I went to shake his hand, I detached my hand and my hand came off into his hand. And so Glenn McGrath, Adam Gilchrist, they just started cracking up laughing. The world's media came in taking photos, and the Prime Minister of Australia is just standing there holding my hand. And in his Australia Day speech, the Prime Minister of Australia, he said, look, today we're surrounded by very significant Australians. We have Aboriginal elders, we have community leaders, we have sports heroes. But nothing can ever beat the intro I had to Sam this morning. Because when you meet Sam, it's an extraordinary experience. Because when you shake his hand, he'll leave his hand in your hand. And the Australian Prime Minister, in his Australia Day speech, then looked over to me and he goes, and thanks, Sam, I'm still recovering from therapy today. It was a very funny moment, that's for sure. But I think we all have moments in our life. And some moments can be quite funny and quite hilarious, and we'll never forget those moments. But then other moments can be quite life-defining and life-challenging. Actually, just before I share with you these moments, I just wanted to show you a photo that this really did happen there with the Prime Minister. So as you can see, there's Adam Gilchrist there in the background. There's the PM's wife, Therese. She's just lost it, right? And literally the Prime Minister of Australia is just handing me back my hand. It was certainly a very funny moment. But this word, whenever we do have moments, the word is called KERS. Now, KERS is the Greek word for time. So contrasting to chronos or chronological time, KERS time is laden with meaning and choice. So get this, the dictionary meaning of the word KERS is this, is a moment within a moment, a particular moment in where drastic change takes place. I'll say that again. KERS moments are moments within a moment, a particular moment in where drastic change takes place. My KERS moment happened a few years ago. I had a major car accident. The police said it was a 206-kilometre head-on collision with a semi-trailer truck. And it was my fault. I fell asleep and I veered over the other side of the road. For those people that have been fortunate enough to travel to Australia or even driven in Australia, you would know that there's long, straight, open roads. And you might be driving for about 3 or 4 hours and not see a single car on the road. And so for me, I was driving along, put my car on cruise control. I fell asleep behind the wheel and I veered over the other side of the road and I had this KERS moment. My arm was ripped off my body, 6 broken ribs, lacerated liver, punctured kidney. The doctors, they said I'll never be able to walk ever again. But you know what's really interesting? One thing I realized that whenever we have tough times, whenever we have a crisis or an adversity, or even right now, when we're in the middle of this post-pandemic new normal, I have found that it's actually not about going back to where we've been. And even though my rehabilitation team, their entire focus for me was to get me back to that same job, something had changed, right? Not only physically, but also emotionally, mentally, even spiritually. I was no longer focused to be the person that I used to be. And so what I needed to then do, I needed to bounce forward, learn from the crisis and not bounce back to where we've been, but more bounce forward into what we can become. So here, guys, I just want to share with you just 3 things that really helped me to bounce forward. These 3 things. And my encouragement to you right now is to write these down, because I've now shared these 3 things in stages all around the world. Just in the last 12 months alone, I've shared this with over 1 million people and shared the stage with Michelle Obama and even Simon Sinek. So write this down because it will really help you. The first thing that really helped me to bounce forward after my car accident was this: mastering communication for influence. And this here is all about speaking confidently in front of people. My doctor said that after my car accident, now that I can't use 2 hands, I've only got 1 hand, he said, Sam, it's no longer about your physical ability. He said it's now about your mental ability. And he said one of the greatest things that you can learn is how to communicate with confidence and speak well in front of people. And so I added then and influence other people as well. And as leaders and as presenters and as people that wants to win people's attention, and with our attention spans now shorter than any other time in history, they say a human being attention span is anywhere between 7 to 9 seconds, shorter than a goldfish. But some of the latest research now says that human being attention spans are now 3 seconds. Seriously, social media are now giving analytics to digital marketers for anyone at all that has viewed your post 3 seconds or longer. Do you know why? Because of this. Ready? Scroll, scroll, scroll. The average human being scrolls 2 miles a day. So what do we need to do to win people's attention and ultimately influence them? And this is where I needed to upgrade my communication, master communication for influence. And so for this, that was one of the key ingredients for me to be a better leader in tomorrow's world. The second thing, let's write this one down. Story trumps information. Story trumps information. The key ingredient to my miraculous rehabilitation after my car accident is actually me choosing a different career path. And it was very organic. After my car accident, a local school asked me to share my story. So I just shared my story, how I overcame adversity, and then another school, and then another school. And before you knew it, I was actually then speaking close to 10 times every week, just sharing my story. And I realized us as human beings, we're hardwired through narrative. This is why we love going to the movies, why we love reading novels, and why us human beings, we've been shared stories through generations. And now over the last few years, over the last 10 years, we've started to bring these stories into our everyday professional lives. And we've realized that in order to win people's mind and hearts is by sharing narrative, is by communicating through a story. One of my books is actually called Storyshowing. And I believe there is a real interesting shift when it does come to story, because an average storyteller will inform. That's where a lot of education stops. A good storyteller will persuade. This is where a lot of sales stop. A great storyteller will inspire. I love inspiration. I go to the latest Marvel movie and I watch Doctor Strange and I'm inspired by that, yeah? But inspiration will not necessarily lead to action. There has to be a shift. And to be quite honest, I believe the shift is in and around this word tell, because we're sick and tired of people telling us what to do. It's true, isn't it? We're at home and our parents tell us what to do. We're in school and our teachers tell us what to do. We're in the workplace now and our bosses tell us what to do. Then all of a sudden we're told to be storytellers. And the shift started to happen around 7 years ago when everyone sort of started saying, we need to use more visual storytelling. But we're still using this word tell. Now, let me share with you something. If I said, let me tell you something, compared to me saying, let me show you something, yeah, it lands totally different to the listener. I've suddenly gone from head to head, now more heart to heart, which then begs the question. An excellent story shower will transform. Now, what is transformation? Transformation means that I've been informed, I've been persuaded, I've been inspired, but now I'm ready to take action. But this isn't the tipping point. One thing that we can teach people is how to transcend people's thinking. Because what true transcendence is giving them an out-of-body experience, giving them a sense of timelessness. And this is where the future of story is. We're really excited about how to transcend others' ways of thinking. So ultimately, they won't only catch that information, but that'll evoke emotion and that'll transform them so they take action. So again, just recapping. The first thing that really helped me to bounce forward was master communication for influence. The second thing that really helped me was learning that story trumps information, and ultimately how can we show that story and not just tell the story. And the last thing that really helped me was this: people follow people. Write this one down: people follow people. Now, this is a really, really interesting one. One thing I love about this is what we're now seeing is what we call the profile economy, where we no longer trust brands, companies, logos, organizations, but we're now trusting human beings. And my encouragement to you, as you build your profile out there in the marketplace, in the workplace, realize that ultimately, if you can build my trust, I will listen to what you have to say. And one of the greatest ways to build your trust with other people is actually opening a wound, being vulnerable, and building your own personal profile, allowing people to know who you truly are. That is how we build trust as leaders in tomorrow's world, which is really cool. I want to finish off just very quickly with one more story. Now, the story here is actually of my mum. Now, this is my beautiful mum, born in Kharagpur, which is obviously there where IIT is, in the world's largest railway track platform there, just 2-3 hours out of Kolkata, as a Bengali. And she married my father, who's a Scotsman, and we're all born here in Australia. But this is my beautiful mum, and her name is Annie. And I love my mum to bits, and she is one of the most caring, one of the most beautiful things in my life. Yet, as we know, things don't always go according to plan. We can plan to go in one direction, but life situations, life circumstances, like we've seen in the last 2 years, will go in a complete different direction. And it was very unfortunate, but last year, my mum, she actually passed away. She died. And it was one of the most saddest things for me ever to lose my mum. And she was only 76 years old. And yes, there's a time for grieving. Yes, there's a time for sadness. But there's also a time for us to pick ourselves up, for us to dust ourselves off, and not just bounce back to where we've been, but more bounce forward into what we can become. So I wanted to really encourage you. What was your KERS moment? What was that moment within a moment that had drastic change in your life? And did you bounce back from that, or did you actually bounce forward? And one thing that has really helped me all throughout my years is to realize that, yes, I can't change the past. I can't change the past, but what I can do is to create a brand new future. I truly believe that our greatest days are ahead of us. Because of this, the best is yet to come.